And the last thing Queppel says to me is, don't ruin the trophy. I was like, no, don't ruin the trophy.
So one was lying and one was standing. And as I shot, they sort of switched places.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I'd shot two by accident. But it was just such an unconventional stalk, you know.
Yeah.
Normally you walk there, you put the sticks up and bang, you know.
Yes. Welcome to this episode of Venari TV's podcast. Today we are joined by a very special guest, our good friend, outfitter and professional hunter, all the way from South Africa. Welcome, Kelvin from Syncerus Safaris.
Oh, thank you very much for having me all the way in your cold little country.
Apologize for the weather. It's not what you're used to.
No, not at all. No, but it's all right.
Kelvin, could you please introduce yourself to our viewers? Because we know you, but there might be one or two sitting out there who doesn't know who you are.
Fantastic.
So, tell us.
I'm the owner-operator of Syncerus Safaris as well as the outfitter. So that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm. And where is that based?
It is based in, we've got 5 hunting camps. Our main camp is on the border between South Africa and Botswana, about 50 kilometers north of the small town of Lephalale.
Lephalale.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce it.
Yes. Yeah, we've been there, so we know all about it. But I want you to put into words, because it's a special place. South Africa is a huge, huge country. But in my eyes, the Limpopo province and the whole Limpopo River, like ecosystem there, tell us something about that, because that was truly special.
As I said in the beginning, we've got 5 different locations that we use. Every hunter is different. No hunter is the same. So Limpopo, we've got 2 hunting properties that we use in Lephalale and in Gravelot, all the way against the border to the Kruger National Park. We've got 1 in KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, and in Eastern Cape. So each very special to their own.
Yeah.
The Limpopo will always be close to my heart. Where we are right up in the north there against the Botswanan River. The Botswanan border, river, same thing. So, yeah, you and I spent a bit of time up there chasing a whole lot of different little animals around.
Yes,
so,
yes. Yeah, as I said, I think hunting on the actual banks of the Limpopo River was super special to me. I've been different places in South Africa, but that was quite unique. But let's start somewhere else maybe, because I've been to South Africa before. You work there, you live there. But Goop, it was actually your very first hunting trip to South Africa.
Yes.
And I would like to hear from you. How was that?
I loved it. I brought my whole family down to Kelvin and his lodge, and we went together. And just a mix of amazing hunting and a really nice lodge where my family could spend time in the pool. And I felt, and it's actually funny because it meant something to me, but I felt safe leaving my family at that lodge, because none of us had ever been to Africa or South Africa before. And at that time, my 2 sons was 6 and 3 years old. So it was small kids, and Juliane was like, okay, what will we do? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we'll have the time of our life.
What you meant was, I don't really care. Daddy's going hunting.
Kelvin was very nice, and we discussed it beforehand, and we were like, okay, hunting in the morning and up until lunch, and then in the afternoon we could do some game drives, and of course I would bring my rifle and stuff like that. But it was also a matter of making that trip a trip for everyone.
Yes.
And I think we still sit and watch photos on the iPad or the iPhone, and Louis, my oldest son, remembers everything. And it was a huge experience for all of us. But for me as a hunter, it was beyond my imagination, I think. I mean, I've seen movies, I've seen your movies, I've heard your tales about it. But to actually be there yourself, that first morning, getting onto that truck, driving into the hunting area was... I find it hard to put words on it, actually, because it's something you need to experience to understand that magical feeling of sitting in the sunrise with all the animals waking around you, and you're just hunting in shorts and a nice light shirt, and it's just...
I really think there's two kinds of people in this world. The one type that goes hunting in Africa and never wants to come back, which is a very small percentage in my opinion, and then the rest who goes to Africa and they will keep coming back. And I think it's the hunting, but it's not so much the big variation of animals and so many different species. It's all of that. It's the sunset. It's how the doves make that morning call when the sun comes up. It's all of it. It's the light. It's the fireplace. It's the braai. It truly is a magical place to go to hunt.
And as a Scandinavian, it's almost the furthest away you can go from home, right? And it's just everything is different.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid of snakes. I can put it out loud now. Snakes is not my favorite kind of animal, so I had my concerns.
And your experiences.
Let's talk about that, because I remember before going, Kelvin, and I'm putting you on the spot now, because there was talk about you and snakes.
Yeah.
And Kelvin was like, doesn't matter, they're hibernating, it's kind of like
gone.
Winter, they're long gone. And one day or 2 days into the hunt, and we passed this little farm where the staff just killed a cobra. And it was not hibernating. That guy was full on hunting something. So should we talk about that, or is it just, it's a thing in Africa, isn't it?
That's Look, it's the wild, wild west there, you know. So there's nothing scripted, nothing, you can't expect the unexpected, they say, eh?
Well, first day I had my close-up encounter with a puff adder. And it was only because of your PH quippers who spotted it just before I was about to step on it.
Really?
Yeah, I have pictures on my phone where we will put... I literally couldn't see it, and I was walking right behind Quippers, and all of a sudden he just pushes me back. He was carrying my shooting sticks, and he just pushes me back. And he was like, don't step there. And under my foot, there was a puff adder.
No.
So I was like, thank you. 10 minutes later, we walk into 2 buffaloes.
Yeah.
So I felt the first morning, okay, welcome to Africa. Everything wants to kill you, but I'm going to enjoy the whole time here.
Yeah, it's got very little to do with the shooting. Everybody asks, tell us about Africa, or, tell us about the hunting, and it's got so little to do with the actual shooting. Enjoying the cuisine, everything, the sights, the sounds, everything is so different compared to Europe, of course. So those are the things that you talk about when you get back to camp. You expect the guys to tell you all about, we saw a buffalo, we saw this, or whatever we saw. But then it's all the small things. Did you see that little red bird? Did you see, all of those things?
The dung beetle.
Exactly.
All of that. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just a whole experience, really. Yeah. But... I want to hear more about these snake stories.
Well,
nothing happened.
No, nothing happened. But I remember looking at my watch after that 10 minutes of puff adder and buffalo encounter, and my pulse was pretty high during that 20, 30 minutes of first day hunting.
Yeah, understandable. Do we have a clip of your very first hunting day in Africa?
Yeah, I think we do. So.
Because I actually really loved experiencing you coming back.
But this is just me on the back of the car with my iPhone. I was like, this is just like whatever I dreamed of it should be.
Something out of The Lion King.
And the guinea fowl running on the road and the sun and
First morning trek. I remember I was like pinching my arm. You're lucky. Remember this because this is something special. And then an afternoon drive with the family and all the kids on the back. I mean, it's just
There they are.
everything I hoped for
Yeah.
and expected and wished for. Just
All rolled into one.
and that lodge and right down to the. I mean, it was a lifetime experience for sure.
No, that's good to hear. Good to hear.
And we shot something as
let's get to that point.
We were hunting as well.
So let's talk. We can talk a lot about all the little things, but we were not just there for that.
No.
And I want you. I know there's a clip of your very first South African animal.
So the clip is actually not my first South African animal, but it's the first animal I've shot with my family hunting with me.
Oh.
So I started out shooting a oryx or a gemsbok, and then a blue wildebeest and a warthog, and then a very old impala.
Very old.
Really looking forward to get home.
It wasn't that old, was it? It was pretty old.
It was very old.
I loved it. I love it.
I'm quite envious of that impala.
Yeah.
And then the last day of hunting, we took the family. We all had a great lunch on the Limpopo River. And the day after was my birthday, and I was like, all I wish for is for you guys to come hunt with me. And we succeeded, and we shot a very nice impala. But it was not so much. The impala is beautiful, but it was more the whole experience with Juliane walking with us, and the kids were back in the car with one of the other guys, and it was just everything. Just I'll find it.
Oh, look at he's gonna get a little bit emotional.
It's so sweet.
It's good. It's really good.
And this is Juliane filming, yeah?
Just Juliane filming on my iPhone, but it was just.
Tom stood still for a second there.
Yeah, you see, if you see my face now, it's like that meant a lot to me.
Yeah. And is that the trophy she's excited about getting
So
back in the living room?
I shot 2 impalas.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get them mounted, looking at each other.
Of course.
And she's very excited about having 2 impalas in the living room among all the others.
Is she?
No, she's not. She said, we can have that one because I'm a part of that story as well. And I was like, yeah, but there's something to that story.
Yes. And the old one is probably that guy's grandfather. So they would go next to look at that. Oh.
That was...
I'm pretty sure if you put that picture in between those 2 mounted ones, she'll be quite happy with it.
Yeah.
Wow. You'll be an old man one day with a little walking stick, and you'll look back at that picture and remember that day like it was yesterday.
Yeah. And the best part to me about this picture is Louis, my son, in front, face expression. He was so excited and proud and eager at the same time. So it's just a priceless memory and a priceless picture to me.
I think you created a monster on that trip.
I hope so.
An expensive monster.
Oh, yes.
I hope so.
So that all looks very idyllic, and the family was there and very safe despite the puff adders. But there was something about a wildebeest.
Oh, yeah.
And more than one shot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took 4 shots, as I remember.
To cut you in there, it's a poor man's buffalo.
Yeah.
Is the wildebeest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do carry on.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so we've been driving around all morning, and it's no secret I had a blue wildebeest on my wish list going to Africa. And we spotted a beautiful old guy standing all alone, and we stalked up onto him, and as I remember, we were actually standing there for almost half an hour just waiting for him to stand up, because as soon as we got in position, he laid down.
Okay.
And then we were standing there, and all of a sudden he gets up. I think it's 120, 150 meters. Perfect, comfortable shot. Took the shot. It felt perfect. It looked perfect. He ran around and then he laid down. It was like perfect story.
And that should have been the end of the story.
Yeah, and then we give him 5 minutes or whatever to walk around the bushes and to go out on the other side. And it's the PH Quippers in front of me, and then 1 or 2 trackers behind me. And I just remember Quippers looking back and say, "Are your gun loaded?" I was like, "Yeah, it's loaded," but he's dead. I felt so good about that shot. So we walk over there, and we're within 30 meters of the wildebeest laying down. It gets up, and it just full on charges us. And the last thing Quippers says to me is, "Don't ruin the trophy." I was like, "No, don't ruin the trophy." So I was aiming in the middle of his face, and I went a little down, and I took a rushed shot, but it made him turn broadside. 1 shot, 1 more shot, and then he made a perfect flip, and he was dead. But that shot in his face, I think, was 10, 15 meters in front of us. My heart was pounding.
And it's always the dead one, isn't it? There's a saying, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's
It's the dead ones that kill you.
Exactly.
And I remember turning around, and the 2 trackers was just gone. So I was like, okay.
They broke a world record in a 100-meter sprint.
If you feel unsafe, I've never been here before. You do this for a living. How am I supposed to know what to do?
And trackers weren't too sure of his shooting abilities.
Exactly. I think that's... I love the coolness of Quippers going, "Don't ruin the trophy."
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. But the fun thing is that when we then got it back home to the lodge and the butchering place, we start skinning it, and we find actually 2 bullets in the wildebeest. And the first bullet was a perfect placement, but it just didn't. The bullet didn't. I have it.
Fragment. Yeah.
It didn't mushroom up.
No.
It was a faulty bullet. I don't know what to say.
No.
This is not the way it's supposed to look.
No.
Because then the third shot we found was a perfect example on
How it should look. Yeah, but the wildebeest is, as you say, the poor man's buffalo. They are no joke, and they are tough, aren't they?
They're extremely tough. One of the toughest. I don't think there's a PH walking around in the African bush that doesn't have a long day story regarding a blue wildebeest. He's just a tough animal.
And they're so beautiful, and it's just but I know it's
beautiful.
Yeah, but
I don't know if beautiful is the word you would use.
I want to say whatever you're saying now. I agree with.
Mine was a blue wildebeest. I was like, why is it actually called a blue wildebeest? But when you see them in the sun, in the natural habitat, the way that the sun reflects or bounces on their skin, and
that grayness becomes blue.
And they look stupid, but at the same time, it's like,
but in a beautiful kind of
majestic way.
And he owns his look. Let me have a look at the bullets, please. Yeah, but they are special animals, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a bit like the warthog. It's a love-hate relationship. It's an ugly animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. This one left everything.
Yeah.
And you found that on the opposite.
I shot on the left shoulder, so on the right shoulder, underneath the skin.
Underneath the skin, Wow.
That didn't do well at all.
It still amazes me. I mean, it's the 300 Blossom Magnum caliber, so it's a powerful gun, and I'm happy everything went well. But when you look at it, stuff like that happens, and you just. I remember Quippers was happy with the PH Quippers was happy that I have, and not to sound selfish or anything, but when you do a certain amount of driven hunts in Scandinavia, you get used to to reload fast and
staying on the target.
Yeah,
keep shooting until it's dead.
Yeah,
because even though the second shot then reflects off you. You don't know if he's going to turn around
No.
and come from a different angle.
No.
So then you have to keep shooting.
I'm looking forward to it. And I actually, when I went down there and I was hoping to shoot a wildebeest, I was like, I only needed skull mounted because, yeah, it takes up a lot of it takes up a lot of space. But after that little incident, I was like, I need him hanging on my wall, looking him in the eye each morning, saying good morning. I won. You did your best. I don't know. I was standing there. I was like, he's gonna be somewhere special in my house.
I think that's and that's another thing about Africa, isn't it? That us Scandinavian hunters, we are so used to this European skull mount, and it looks beautiful. And then you come to Africa for the first time, and the first few animals, even a wildebeest, which is a weird, odd-looking animal.
Big, long face.
But then when you have a story like that, boom, then he needs to be shoulder mounted.
Yeah.
And it's the same with, they are so unique, they are so different. And that's another thing I think here in Scandinavia, we're quite used to all the different deer species. They are quite similar. Mm-hmm. But in Africa, they all look different. And they're all beautiful in their own right. So you always end up with a lot of shoulder mounts when you leave South Africa.
And it's back to a conversation we've had in earlier podcasts, where it's like, we're not going to put anything on our walls that doesn't have a story.
No.
And to me, it was my first time in Africa, so everything had a story for me. I was like, how can I not put this somewhere special?
Exactly. Have you ever been charged by a wildebeest?
Not by a wildebeest, no. But I do struggle to kill them. They are just immensely tough. Mm-hmm. I do have one wildebeest story.
Oh.
I was a lot younger, and we went on a hunt, all us youngsters, and young and. When you that age, you know everything. And we went out, and I went by myself, and I'd seen a wildebeest. It wasn't even far, maybe 40 meters, and I shot and I missed the thing. And at that age, I was like, this gun is definitely not shooting straight. Definitely.
Gun's fault.
There's no ways. There's no ways. I did a big loop around, and almost the same place in the afternoon. I saw, there's a wildebeest standing there. And again, 40 meters. But at this time, I was convinced this rifle was not shooting straight. You know, I shoot straight, the gun doesn't shoot straight. And yeah, this wildebeest was standing in sort of shoulder height grass. Pulled up, bang. As I came down from the recoil, it was still standing there. Uh-huh. Couldn't believe it. Reloaded the rifle. Shot again, but this time I saw its feet, just above the grass. And at that age, you're really much hunting on a budget. So I didn't have a big budget at all, let alone for one wildebeest. When I got there was two of them dead, lying there. So one was lying and one was standing. And as I shot, they sort of switched places.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I'd shot two by accident. Only had enough money for one of them. So there was a rather awkward conversation to phone my father and, have you got some more money for me?
Dad, something weird happened.
Very strange. You won't believe it. Yeah, as I say, every PH has got a wildebeest story.
Yeah.
Some end well, some not so well. But I'm glad this one ended well.
It would have been
a different story had Goop not shot it.
Yes.
Had he clean missed it.
Yes.
There would have been not only the trackers running.
But I wasn't the only one hunting on that trip, Jacob.
Oh.
Because you guys were hunting together.
Yes.
And you told me on the way down that you had a kudu on your list.
So the whole one of the main reasons we actually went was to experience the kudu rut. And this is when you explained all the big old kudus, they come out of hiding. Wherever it is they hide.
Wherever it is that they're hiding.
And they come sniffing out the females.
That's it.
And we have a video clip because this was a very, very special day, and it was a long day. So we are actually sneaking up. We saw the kudu females, and we get to this dead branch. Maybe you want to tell this story, Kelvin?
Yeah, it starts about 10 minutes before this. We stalked up to this watering hole because there was a little bit of commotion there. And when we got there, it was just wildebeest. Was it wildebeest?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we had a look around, and I think you went up to the watering hole to, see if there were some footprints. And I looked over your head, and down the long, probably 300-400 meter road, I saw a female right at the end of the road. And during the kudu rut, if you see female, there's always going to be a male there. Yeah. So I immediately said, we have to give this a go, whether we get there in time or not. So we did our whole long stalk down the road, and as we sort of stuck our head around the side, then we saw the female, but no male.
No.
For a long time. But I knew there was one there, and the female kept looking sort of backwards into the bush, and there had to be the male there. And after, 20 minutes or so, we saw the bull turn and just the shine off of the horns.
I'm pretty sure he was standing there because he just like kudu, they just boom, and he was there.
Yeah.
Because I've been looking at that female for so long, and all of a sudden he's there. And we crawled out on that little road, and I remember we crawled out there in the shade.
Yeah.
But we were there for so long that the sun actually shifted, and I remember I got burned in the back of my knees.
Yeah.
And we were lying there for easily an hour.
Yeah, it was an hour.
And he just stood there, and she stood there. And like kind of halfway through that whole thing, she stopped. I remember in the beginning she was chewing and kind of chilled. But then I think we moved a little bit more out on the road, and then she stopped chewing.
Trying to follow the shadow.
Exactly, and I think she saw something, or she stopped chewing. She just stared at us for easy 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And nothing happened. Nothing.
No.
And we were just lying there, me with a rifle across your back.
I was just about to say we're not going to talk about the position.
It's perfect. It was apart from you breathing, it was actually very steady, my aim. And then the two impalas.
This is so Africa, right?
Yeah.
You're focusing on one animal, and all of a sudden a lot of things is just happening around you. And
it was also the kudu rod goes together with the impala rod. So those two impalas, they started fighting, and the kudu was not. He didn't even react to that. He didn't care. But then we hear something behind us, and I think it's the wildebeest.
It was the wildebeest coming down the road,
and she got spooked. And she didn't do much, but she kind of like took 2 steps. And then he turned around, because obviously, as long as she's not moving, he's not moving either.
Yeah.
But as soon as she moved, he was like, "Ooh, what's going on?" So then he turned.
But he stopped our heart for, twice.
Yeah.
He stood in, and then he walked back into the bush, and then he came back out, and then he went back in. And every time he went back in the bush, we thought, he's never coming back out. And then when he eventually came out, he was just standing dead perfectly. She was standing dead perfectly in front of him.
Yes.
And we just waited.
I had no shot.
And waited. And that felt like an eternity.
With the safety off, crosshair, and her bum was just covering his shoulder. And then she finally takes a few steps, and I could take the shot. And then
that was a relief.
Hush, very much.
Yeah. I mean, I was sitting like this for 50, 60 minutes, and my arms were so dead.
Yeah, but the expression on your both your faces, there's like, wow.
I mean, we were just lying down, but it's one of the most uncomfortable, tough hunting situations I've been in. The sun burning down, and I think halfway through, Wendy is like, I need to change the battery of the camera. And I think she changed the SD card as well, because we never knew when he was going to come out.
Yeah, and how quickly the shot was going to be.
Exactly. So she was just filming.
He's staring at us.
That was...
But it was just such an unconventional stalk, you know.
Yeah.
Normally you walk there, you put the sticks up and bang, you know. Whereas this just... And as we were crawling, so this shadow was moving, and so we found ourselves crawling into the middle of the road.
Yep.
No man's land. And yeah, it was just... And then I said to Jacob, you know, this is a huge bull. We have to keep following the little shadow. How are we going to shoot it? Where's the sticks? You know, and I said, Jacob, you know, like, let's just do it like myself and my brother were hunting guinea fowl when we were a lot younger. Just put it on my shoulder, you know, and just lie there, and we will eventually get the shot. And yeah, it was an eternity. It really was. But when she moved forward, you'll see it in the video. Jacob said, it'll be quite good if you stop breathing.
I can hold my breath for 20 seconds.
I said to him, look,
I was actually thinking 20 seconds? That's not... Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll make it work.
Exactly. And yeah, so I held my breath there, you know, and yeah, luckily I think you shot on 8 seconds or so, because I only had 10 in me.
And I feel like it was a perfect shot. And then the drama didn't stop, because then we spent another easy hour and a half, and we couldn't find blood. We couldn't find tracks.
We looked at the video 100 times.
We looked at the video. Where was he standing? The tracker went ahead and found the females, but with no bull. And we were sure he was hit. Good.
You could see it.
What was his name? The other...
Sander.
Sander came with the dog.
His dog.
It's a German hunting terrier. So he did what German hunting terriers do. He fucked off.
And he chased the female.
It ran, chasing something. So he was no help. And I remember we had this whole conversation that morning about this hunter's intuition, where you kind of walk down a track, and there's just something going, I should take this right. And we had that talk that morning.
Exactly.
Where it's like, we're actually going this way, but there's something told you to go left.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy 2 hours in to this search for the kudu.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around, I'm frustrated. I'm starting to doubt myself. And I was like, I'm going to look into this bush. And in the middle of this bush, the kudu is just lying there dead.
Stone dead.
Stone dead. Not a drop of blood. Perfect hit on the shoulder. It ran 20 meters.
Yeah, if that.
And
I mean,
it
it could
fell
have been
over.
evenly.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have just run and looked as though he jumped the last 10 meters into the bush.
Yes.
But it was the last place we would have looked.
Yeah.
Because he was in the center of this bush, and it's just not where you would think he would be.
It was
beautiful.
It is such an amazing animal. And
There's a reason it's called the Grey Ghost of Africa, right?
Even in death, they just disappear. They are...
This wasn't the first kudu we had seen on the trip, you know.
No.
That eluded us the whole time. And they live up to the name, the Grey Ghost. 1 minute he's there, 1 minute he's gone.
And they are just... They are big. They are beautiful in kind of a simple way, because the color is not that amazing. But the variation of the white stripes and that gray skin and...
Of course, the horns.
The unique way the horns can, some will twist more or less, some
Yes.
will be a bit wide or narrow. It's just...
And when you bump into them, they put their horns, lie their horns back on their body and gone, never to be seen again. No.
They are a very, very special animal.
And I also think this clip could leads up to something else I want to talk about after the break. But in the first couple of minutes of the clip, we see the big fence, and there's kudus on one side and on the other side. And I saw kudus jump those fences
Yes.
easily.
Yes.
And I really want to get into talking fences, especially with you, Kelvin, and the way of doing hunting in South Africa with fences and stuff like that. So we'll be right back after a break to talk about fences in South Africa.
Ooh, controversial topic.
So we're back, and I really want to get this conversation going about the fences and hunting in South Africa, because there is some sort of idea, at least I think in Scandinavia, that some people think that hunting in South Africa is just one big fence, and that's not what I felt like hunting in South Africa, because it's huge fences. But I know there's also by law something about the fences in South Africa, right?
Yeah, look, the hunting and fences are a controversial topic, to say the least. 95% of South African farms are high fences, and yeah, it's frowned upon. A lot of people don't understand it. In saying that, 99% of the people that have been to South Africa and seen it, it doesn't faze them. You know, most of the time you drive in, you see a fence, and when you drive out 7 days later, you see a fence again.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't get the feeling that you're sitting, you know, in a sort of a canned hunting situation.
Not at all. At least that was not my experience.
Yeah.
But there is by law or by the government some rules about having.
Under correction, but I think it's about 400 hectares. You may not hunt on less than that, or something like that. But ethically, also, it's just not ethical to hunt underneath. Sort of.
But as I understood, so unless your farm is fenced, you're not actually allowed to manage wild animals.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So, again, under correction, in the 80s, all of the animals belonged to the government, and then they changed and said, listen, everything that is on your property belongs to you. So everybody put up fences, and then those animals then became the landowner's property.
Okay.
So that's the whole. There are some low fences, Eastern Cape, for example, KwaZulu-Natal, and then but most of the time, look, there's always going to be a rotten apple in any industry, whether it's hunting or anything, that don't abide by the rules, and then they give everybody a bad name. That's just the way it is.
But it's frustrating because sometimes I speak to. It's typically Danish hunters, and they're like, South Africa, it's all fenced, it's not real hunting, and then we go back to that kudu situation, and as you pointed out, there was a fence. It was the border. I don't even know if it was the same farmer who owned both sides of the fence, which didn't really matter. On our side of the fence, there was at least that one kudu female and the bull. And on the other side, there was a few other females.
Yeah.
And both of us were thinking, anything can happen here.
Don't jump the fence.
Because I've seen kudus, and the kudu has this amazing way. They walk out onto that road, and they're standing still. And then they jump a 4-meter fence. Boom! Just like that. It's not like they're not running up to it and then jumping. They'll be standing still, and they just go, and they're over that fence.
Exactly.
So the joke is, even though those high fences are high, they are well maintained, all the little animals will go under, and the big ones will either jump it or go straight through it.
Yep, exactly.
So if these animals want to leave, they're going to leave. And my biggest fear was this bull would actually jump the fence because there was 3 or 4 females on the other side. So when I hear hunters talk about hunting in a fence in South Africa, it's number one, probably because they've never tried it. They don't actually know what it is. And number two, if you if you try to tell me that hunting in a 20,000 hectare fence is unhuntsman-like or unsporty, then we've got places in Denmark where you can't go hunting. I mean, Langeland is about 20,000 hectares, and we call that free range. It's an island. So if you like going hunting on Langeland, you are also going to enjoy hunting in South Africa.
Yeah, it's everybody's opinion for themselves, you know. Where do you draw the line? Because the Kruger National Park is bigger than the Netherlands. It's got a fence around it.
Yeah.
But do we call it free range? Do we call it, you know, what do you call it?
A park or yeah.
Yeah, so it's controversial. It's important that you do your research on the outfitter that you'd hunt with. You know, what the areas are like, and kind of take it from there. It really doesn't help our industry as a whole if I promise you the world. I mean, you're a very experienced hunter yourself. You've been, I don't know how many countries you've been to, and I tell you, this is 6,000 hectares, and you get there and you're like, hold on, I can see the fence there, and there. So it's not possible.
But the funny thing is also that Goop and I, we've hunted a lot on an island here in Denmark. It's 100 hectares, this island. It's a tiny little island. I've had some of my best hunting on that island. So to me, it doesn't really matter how big the area or the fence or the island is. It's about how the animals react. Because I've been to places in South Africa where it was, we call it the American farm. You know, where you drive around and you go around a corner and there'll be 20, 30 big sable bulls standing next to a feeding station. That's not natural behavior of the sable bull. So that I didn't like. Then it could be 100,000 hectares.
Yeah,
I don't really care. If the animals are acting that way, then it's not for me. It might be for someone else. I don't have an opinion against them. But to me, if the animals are acting wild, I don't really care how many hectares it is. And yes, there might be a fence. And I remember editing that bit with the kudu. And I was like,
the fence.
We can see the fence. But then on the other hand, that's how it is. I go hunting here in Denmark, where sometimes there's a highway or there's a road or a private garden. There might be a fence because there's Christmas trees or something. It's nature, even in South Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think it's important to, if we talk about the American farm, there's also breeding farms.
Yeah.
Hunting is conservation, and we want to keep a wild population of animals, but in some way that's not possible without having places to breed them and let them into the wild. So you might end up hunting at a breeding farm where they have, I don't know, 50 or 100 big sable males standing there. If you like it, you like it. But at the same time, even though you wouldn't hunt there, you probably wouldn't have anything to hunt somewhere else in South Africa if there was not places like those breeding farms.
No, because that's another big thing, isn't it? Relocating or reintroducing animals within the farms, that happens a lot.
Well, South Africa is your biggest success story when it comes towards conservation. I mean, 90% of rhino belong to the private sector in South Africa, and that speaks heaps for itself in that. So, your balance has to be there. You introduce new genetics. Obviously, you're hunting animals past their sell-by date, past their maturity levels, and then they get kicked out of the herd, and you hunt, in the bachelor group, and you shoot an old male. That's perfectly fine. Reintroducing new bloodlines. I wouldn't say that's put and take. It's just reintroducing genetics into the bloodline. So
because you reintroduce either breeding males or breeding females or like a whole herd. and then you actually just leave them there
Yep.
to live that wildlife. So it's not put and take.
No.
It's not how it works.
No, well, most of the animals that are hunted are born and bred there, you know, and obviously they any, call it an ecosystem, anybody, there's an end to it. So if it holds value, it stays. If it doesn't, it goes. So once an impala gets to that age, he's hunted, those funds are reintroduced, injected into the system, and so everything continues in South Africa.
And I don't know if this is controversial, but in some way, it's a situation we as humans put ourselves in, if that makes sense. By law in the 80s, everything that's on your farm, it's your property, you can hunt it. Of course you put up fences, but then you need some kind of clan to mix the genetics, make sure that old and worn out trophies and non-trophies are taken down and new blood comes in and stuff. So I think it's just important to remember that yes, we go down there, yes, we shoot the animals, but there's more to it that a lot of people don't understand, I think. Or
Until they've been there.
yeah, and even though people might never go there, they don't acknowledge the work that is put in behind a Wildlife Africa. I'm not sure there would be a Wildlife Africa today if there wasn't made these kind of farms and plants and breeding programs and stuff like that. I don't know, 20, 30 plus years ago. I don't know when it started because, as you said, the rhinos, 90% is privately owned.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you own any kind of land, especially in South Africa, you need to make money. If you don't make money on the wild animals, you would have goats, sheep, cows,
Stones.
whatever, or you would have nothing. So if it like you say, if it pays, it stays.
Yeah.
And
You got to remember that to get a buffalo bull to, hard boss stage, somebody's got to keep that animal alive for 12 years, 10 years. Everything costs money. To give that animal water, to give that during the droughts, you have to feed it. It's just a whole system to get it to that position where the hunter can come along and hunt it.
yeah. The good thing is that we're coming back very soon.
That's right.
And this time we are gonna do a mixture. So Gub, you're hunting during the day,
Yes.
where I'll be sitting by the pool,
You'll be
chilling,
Pina
or
coladas.
sleeping, because I'm hunting at night. And I know you're excited because you're very excited. And
I'm like a kid in a candy store. I just can't wait to get going. But yeah,
you just want to sit on the back of that buggy and
Yep.
say, yep, let's go.
And find snakes.
Lots of snakes. Isn't September it's like high season for snakes, isn't it?
It's sort of the turn of the season.
That's what you said
Remember
last time
that
as well.
hibernating?
Yeah, sure. There's no. I think I actually googled. They don't hibernate at all in Africa. They're just all over the place. Anyways, but we are going night hunting, which I haven't really done in Africa before. I've shot some jackals, but I'm quite excited about that. Can you? What kind of species are we hoping for?
It's a different set of skills.
I
Hunting,
have to be quiet and stuff, don't I?
I'm sure.
It'll be a disaster.
Yeah. There'll be some sort of punishment for that. So hunting nocturnal animals, you have to have a whole different set of skills. It's not just chuck a piece of dead meat and a hyena will run up to it. We've got a different from sitting in a blind over a bait site. It's thousands and thousands of hours spent checking trail cameras, checking photos, 1,000 photos of the grass moving.
There's probably a lot of that.
Yeah, sitting across above a bait, calling, and then obviously spotlighting as well for your different. So genet cats in the trees with a spotlight, calling in your jackal, with a caller, and then hunting things like your hyenas, civet cats, honey badgers over a bait. So we'll be trying those 3 different things, checking a lot of trail cameras, and hoping to pick up honey badger, civet cat, brown hyena, maybe a genet. But yeah, there isn't really a rule book for it. We can't say we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Halfway through, I'm sure something is going to come up. We're going to do a 360 and try something else.
Awesome. I'm excited about that.
Night hunting Africa, close to the Botswana border and everything. I'm thinking leopards or even lions or something like that. Not that you're allowed to shoot them at night, I know that, but sitting in a blind like that in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely has the. We were sitting in a blind once with a client, and I could hear clear as day, a lion in the background, and the guy shook my leg and he said, "Is that what I think it is?" I said, "What do you think it is?" And he said, "I really think it's a lion." I said, "Yeah, I also think it's a lion." So it gives that sort of that scary factor to it as well. But there's nothing more African than hearing a hyena in the distance, or a lion in the distance.
In the distance, yes.
Yeah.
Don't come too close. But it's going back to those snakes, and it's the whole thing of, as soon as you're on the ground in South Africa, you never know. You never know. It might be a wildebeest trying to kill you, a scorpion, a snake, a hippo, a crocodile, the random lion. I mean, that's the whole, that drift, because there's a hunting aspect, which is really exciting and fascinating. But the little drizzle of some of these animals might actually try to kill you.
A lot of them.
That's what makes it extra exciting.
Yeah. Well, no 2 days are the same. Not a single day. We can't wake up and say, today we'll hunt an impala, because halfway through that we'll be sidetracked and we'll be hunting a bushbuck, and then we'll be chasing a bushbuck, and we end up shooting a warthog.
Exactly.
So there's absolutely zero plan. We like to have a plan, but that plan never sort of comes together.
I can't wait.
Nope. We're ready.
Just that feeling of getting out of the airport, greeting you guys, and just knowing and not knowing what to expect. It's like...
And Jakob telling us, where's the biltong?
Yes.
Where's the drive horse?
Remember the biltong and the dive horse. Otherwise there'll be problems.
He just needs a kg of biltong every day. We don't have to feed him.
No. I'm happy with the biltong. Right. September is coming up. We are excited. It'll be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I think that's it for this episode of Venari TV's podcast. If you have any questions for us and Kelvin, please send us an email. There's an email address somewhere. I haven't figured out if it's up or down. It's somewhere on the screen. And if nothing else, tune in to Venari TV to watch the 2 movies we filmed at Kelvin's spot along the banks of the Limpopo. Join us here the next time. We will talk about something else fun and exciting. And thank you for watching.